So we were asking, when do you feel comfortable enough to take your wig off in front of your boo? So when do you feel comfortable enough?
I feel like it got to be like a good year.
A year?
Yeah, like for me.
I thought that that was a very interesting answer. Not because I was absolutely shocked to hear a Black woman express, you know, some hesitancy with wanting to show her natural hair to her significant other. That's not you know, it's not the first time I've heard that concept, but it was interesting to me the length of time that she said, about after a year. If you watch my channel at all, you know I talk a lot about self-love in regards to our hair type. Specifically for me, 4C hair, but really I think it applies to all women. What I find interesting, or what I feel holds us back from, as a community, being able to really move past it, is I don't think we're always honest with ourselves about this. Later on in the show, a woman calls into the podcast.
When do you take the wig off, mama?
I'm gonna take the wig off anytime because I'm cool with my natural self. I start to be ugly if you're not comfortable taking your wig off.
No, I'm far from ugly. I think it's just the way that I was raised. My mom, even when I just had my natural hair, my mom has a thing about you don't need to wear scarves in front of guys in the house. So, and I do that with my man, but it's still, I don't know, it's something that was like pushed in me.
It would be one thing if she was like, yeah, to be honest with you guys, I do not feel comfortable, you know, showing my natural hair to my significant other after a year because I'm still working on feeling completely comfortable with my natural hair. And that's what it is. Like, that makes sense. I think that's very common, and I can definitely relate to that because it took me a while for sure to feel comfortable in my natural hair. However, it's the whole, I don't think my hair looks ugly. That's just not how I was raised. You know, my mom raised me to where, you know, even with my natural hair, she would say things like, oh, what, you're gonna wear a scarf around, you know, men, or things along those lines. None of what I'm saying is to shame or ridicule Lauren, because again, I feel like I have felt those thoughts before. I'm saying this because I'm hoping it will be helpful to someone, and because I think it's helpful if we have honest conversations in the natural hair community about these things. We have to be honest with ourselves and admit the fact that if we are not cool with showing our natural hair to our significant other after a year, until after a year, it says something about how we feel about our natural hair. Like, I don't know how else to really get around that, you know, that you would not feel comfortable taking off your wig and showing who you really are. And I think that sometimes, not even just women, but people in general, nobody wants to talk about their insecurities. Nobody wants to feel like they have insecurities. So sometimes if an insecurity is raised, I think it can be just a defense mechanism to be like, oh, no, that's not me. I don't feel that way. That's not a problem. But I think that's when we should ask ourselves challenging questions, such as, you're saying you don't feel comfortable showing your natural self, showing your natural hair to your significant other for the entire, you know, first year that you're dating. Okay, I'm pretty sure, now it could be wrong of me to make this assumption, but I'm pretty sure you're being physical with this individual before the year has passed. I think it'd be safe to say that that's probably pretty common in our culture, okay? So I'm not trying to say that in a derogatory way, but the point of me saying that is, it says something to me that it is almost normalized to be more concerned about exposing how your hair looks naturally without a wig to your significant other than it could be to do one of the most, if not the most intimate act with that significant other. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do that before a year, but to show them your natural hair is like, whoa, that's like too far. That's, to me, a powerful statement for how deep this hair thing really goes. Very telling of how sensitive and vulnerable we Black women feel about our hair. I think it's okay that we feel very sensitive and vulnerable about our hair. However, I don't think that it's okay to stay there. Like, I think we should be honest with ourselves about why we feel so sensitive, why we feel so protective of our hair, and what is it that we think is going to happen if that man were to see us in our natural state like that. And something else that Lauren said I found very interesting that wasn't spoken about on the show, and I felt like it was such a missed opportunity. I wish there were more women up there who could have brought this up. And it was what she said about how she was raised in terms of her mom and what her mom showed her.
The way that I was raised, my mom, even when I just had my natural hair, my mom has a thing about you only wear scarves in front of guys in the house. So, and I do that with my man, but it's still, I don't know, it's something that was like pushed in me.
There was one person that I saw mention that in the comments section. I was like, okay, I'm glad someone caught that and it wasn't just me, because wow, what a statement. Part of this whole natural hair movement, this natural hair journey, and really working on our mindset and working on reprogramming ourselves, it's interesting how it really is not just for us. God willing, I'm gonna have daughters one day, and they're gonna see how I interact with myself in regards to my hair, and that is gonna leave a lasting impression on them for the rest of their lives. That's something that she's saying she was raised that way, where her mom made her feel like, you know, this is not how we are supposed to present ourselves in terms of our natural hair. That, or you're not even supposed to be, you know, wearing a scarf around a man, like all these rules that are passed down generation to generation. I'm sure her mom was not the first person who just thought of that on her own. No, she was taught that as well by someone, some female womanly figure in her life. And then it continues to get passed down and passed down. But the only way that that type of thinking is ever going to end to where we are truly free, not just free, but encouraged and supported to feel comfortable in our own skin, is if we talk about it, is if we expose it, expose the lie, and talk about all these thoughts that a lot of us share, but just are not ready to yet explore. I do think it's also important to note that most of the callers who called in did say that they were okay with showing their hair at any time to their significant others, even women who talked about having alopecia. And I thought that that was really cool, because I think that there would have been a time in our history where a majority of all of the callers would have been like, oh God, no, I'm not showing my hair to my husband really at any time. I mean, I remember Chris Rock saying in a documentary that he had never seen his wife's hair, never, let alone, you know, after a year. So to me, that's a testament to the natural hair movement and just the natural hair community and all of the education and stories that have been being shared amongst us women. I think it matters. I think it's helpful. I think things are honestly slowly changing. Of course, everyone is going to come along and come to grips with things at their own pace, and all we can do is continue to support people in that process, but also, again, be honest with one another about some of the thoughts and feelings that we have about our hair and what it says on a deeper level when we tend to think the way that we think about some of these things. I also thought it was cool to see in the comment section from quite a few men that were saying that they loved natural hair, they preferred natural hair, they, you know, would prefer it over the wigs, because even though some of us try to deny it, I do think that a lot of the things that we do in terms of our appearance are for men. And I think it's the same on the other side as well. A lot of the things that men do in terms of their appearance and just a lot of other things in their lifestyles are for women. And I know that I've heard, you know, some men express the opposite, where they are not supportive of natural hair, or they make fun of it, or they only like a certain type of natural hair. But to see quite a few comments from men who were like, I like natural, I prefer natural, you know, you would look beautiful with your natural hair. Again, I just think that that is good to hear those types of encouraging, positive, supportive messages. To me, that always just goes back to the fact of not everyone is going to love you. Not everyone is going to accept you as you are. However, there is someone out there for everyone, and there are people who will absolutely love you at your best when you are you. And you really don't need to constantly feel like you have to look a certain way that is so far off from the way that you look, to the point where you feel, you know, shame towards your natural setting. Like, it's not necessary. It's a lie that our society has told us. Let's just say you were to be dating someone and you were to show him your natural hair, and he were to respond in a negative way. That says nothing about you. That says everything about that man, that simply was not the right man, that he is not even a man, he's a boy, he's a child, because like, what's your issue with me showing you what actually grows out of my head? If you got a problem with it, that's fine. You don't have to like me. You can go date somebody else, but I'm not going to allow your lack of refined taste make me feel like I now need to be anything that I'm not and change myself. Like, nope, that's it. Point, end of story. But again, I understand. Easier said than done. I definitely did not always think that way, so I understand it's a journey. But anyways, I thought it was an interesting segment and food for thought.